What's up, everybody? It's Tom from twinsdaily.com. Let's talk about some of these early off-season transactions. It's already up and rolling. The World Series just ended, yet we are getting a ton of transaction news because basically it's news when anybody's option gets picked up. Among the guys whose options got declined was Sergio Romo. He is now currently a free agent. The Twins had a $5 million option that they declined on him, instead paying a modest buyout. And it's not too surprising. Of course, Romo came over via trade in 2019, pitched very well, started off great this year after signing as a free agent again in the offseason. Really tailed off as the season went along, though, this year. Of course, this was a very strange season, but it's worth pointing out that over his first handful of appearances, he pitched very well. Now, this is a small sample for the season anyway, but when we really break it down like this, it really doesn't look good for Sergio as he trended through the year. In his first 11 outings, he had a 1.74 ERA, struck out 14 guys in 10 and a third inning, only walked 3. But then you see from then on, not nearly as good. From his 12th outing forward, you can see here that brings up, we're on Baseball Reference, just in case you're wondering. Over his final 13 appearances, he only pitched 9 2/3 innings, had a 6.52 ERA, 9 strikeouts, 4 walks. And take a look at that. Opponents slugged .475 and had an .837 OPS against him. Of course, the last we've seen of him now, unfortunately, will be in that postseason appearance that he had that really should have been a clean inning. But Jorge Polanco committed an error, so he gave up 3 unearned runs. So no earned runs, but 3 unearned runs. And you kind of can give him a pass that he really, if Polanco makes that play, he gets out of that inning. But I mean, things kept getting worse. Just put it that way. And one of the big things in acquiring Romo was for his postseason experience. And as you can see, he also gave up 2 runs in Game 3 last year in 2019. So. Not to say, these are just very small samples we're looking at overall, but not at all surprised to see the Twins not pick up his $5 million option, to be honest. Love Sergio Romo. He seems like just like the best guy to be around. I'm sure his teammates love him. Really funny guy. Then in between the lines, incredibly intense. Definitely hoping that his career continues. You can see here he's coming up on 38 before opening day next year. So he's definitely getting up there. But, even though he tailed off, we did see he pitched pretty well at the start and ended up with a 4.05 ERA and 1.15 whip. So it's not like he's, and 10.4 K per 9, despite not throwing hard. He's still got something left in the tank, but I think at $5 million, I don't think he's going to find that on the free agent market. Maybe he'll be back with the Twins. Who knows? Hard to say. But that was the first kind of domino to fall for the Twins, was declining Sergio Romo's option. Today, they also added 2 pitchers, picked them up off waivers, added them to the 40-man roster in Ian Gibaut and Brandon Waddell. So let's talk about these guys. If you're having a hard time getting excited about these guys, I don't blame you. No offense to either of them. They're both big league pitchers, but these guys kind of maybe feel a little bit more like the kind of guys who should be available on minor league contracts, to be completely honest. And again, no disrespect to those guys. That's more of a statement of the rest of the talent pool in Major League Baseball. However, I will point out that Gibaut in particular throws super hard. He throws in the mid-90s. Definitely has a lot of oomph on his fastball. And you can see here he spent some time with the Rays, with Texas last year, and then also was with Texas for 14 appearances this year. Probably most famous now, unfortunately, for throwing a pitch behind Manny Machado after Fernando Tatis Jr. hit that grand slam on the 3-0 pitch. Gibaut wasn't even the guy who gave up that grand slam. It was pretty clear to me that Woodward, their manager, brought him in to intentionally throw at Machado. So just an uncomfortable and unfortunate situation for him to be put in. And when you're a guy like that on the fringes of the major leagues, I mean, you're not gonna listen to, if your manager says throw at this guy, what are you gonna do? I mean, if you don't do it, he probably send you down. He's one of the last guys on the roster. So just kind of an unfortunate situation that he found himself caught up in. At least that's the way I'm going to choose to think of that one. He originally was supposed to have a 3-game suspension. It got bumped down to 2 after he appealed. So I think also Major League Baseball maybe was in agreement with that assessment I just laid out there. As you can see, he did strike out 14 batters in his 12 and a third inning, but he also walked 9 and gave him a couple home runs. So, I mean, before we even really dig into anything too deep, you can tell this guy's a guy with some good stuff, but some control issues. He is 26 years old, so definitely has a lot of bullets left in that arm. Brandon Waddell, who's a left-hander. Gibaut is a right-hander. Waddell's a left-hander, also 26. He made his major league debut this season with the Pirates, only made 2 appearances, not really much to look into there. But just to get a little bit more of an idea of who these guys are, let's look at both of their minor league numbers, which are much, much bigger samples than what they've done in the major leagues. And I'm just going to go straight down to these. If you're on Baseball Reference, you can go and just see so many guys bounce around between levels, between years even. I just want to see what he did in AAA and AA here for Gibaut. He's been a reliever all throughout his career, and he pitched very well at those 2 levels. And let's see, Texas's team is in the International League, so they were in, that's Tampa Bay. So he has pitched some in the PCL, which is a much harder environment for pitchers, but most of these AAA innings came in the International League. That is a more pitcher-friendly environment. But still, he pitched very well in 2 seasons, a 2.75 ERA, and 1 season in AA, a 2.22 ERA. So this is a guy with really good numbers. And again, you can see kind of like we're saying, this guy can really get strikeouts, 10.8 K per 9, 12.1 K per 9, but the 4.4 walk rate is pretty high. So it is what it is. This guy is, obviously the Twins identified him as somebody they think they can work with. So in that same vein as a Matt Whistler. So sometimes these projects work out, sometimes they don't. Brandon Waddell, on the flip side, again, this is the lefty here. He's been a starter for almost his entire collegiate and then professional career. Really only started pitching out of the bullpen a little bit in 2019. So kind of take that with a grain of salt with some of his numbers. Excellent marks in AA, as you can see on this line. And that's over a nice sample of 274 innings pitched. And then in AAA, let's see with him, he also pitched mostly or all in the International League. So that's the league that's a little bit more pitcher friendly in AAA. Not nearly as good of numbers. You can see where maybe Pittsburgh is sort of done tinkering with him. And, if anybody's a little nervous that you're picking up someone from Pittsburgh, which is a franchise sort of desperate for anything right now, I can't blame you. But I would also say that that's not an organization that's known really for getting the most out of their players. So if you're looking for, the potential upside, that's an organization where you think, well, if we pick a guy up from them, we might be able to find some stuff that they didn't identify. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up what I have here on those 2 guys. Again, they're just sort of wild cards. I think with all this activity going on around Major League Baseball, the Twins are just trying to get some security of getting guys in the organization, on the roster. They're really only going to cost you the space on your 40-man roster. And with all these guys hitting free agency, I think even with adding these 2 guys, the Twins, I believe, are still only at 33 players on their 40-man roster. So plenty of space. There is not really any kind of commitment. These guys might not even make it to spring training, depending on what else happens with, at this point, things are getting so wild immediately with all these options being declined. I'm sure the Twins don't even really have a real great grasp on what their offseason might look like, because this front office group has shown a really willingness to wait out the market. So yeah, it's possible both these guys make it through the entire spring training and remain in the 40-man roster. Maybe they even, do like a Matt Whistler and they contribute for the Twins, but it's also possible they end up getting removed at a later time when the Twins add someone else. Something to keep in mind. They're not like married to either of these guys. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Last thing I wanted to mention, and again, it's been a lot of news right out the gate here after the World Series. Both the White Sox and the Tigers have new managers. Like my headline here at Twins Daily says, they both bring championship resumes. They both bring some baggage. Tony La Russa hired by the White Sox. He hasn't managed a team in like 9 years. Once a guy, we're going back now. Once a guy thought of it at the forefront of sort of advanced thinking in baseball. So you have to give him credit there. Obviously, a Hall of Famer, a very impressive resume, but he's 76 years old. A lot of questions on how he's going to connect with this White Sox team that is very young and brash. A lot of clashing things that Larussa has said in the past and the actions of White Sox players. It's going to be fascinating, and I think this is basically a no-win situation for the White Sox. They're already a good team. They're already on the upswing. This can only go poorly, in my opinion, because like if they do well, like I don't know that Larussa is going to get any credit, or this move is going to get any credit. If they do poorly, he's going to be such an easy target / fall guy. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And then AJ Hinch, the guy who was suspended, the Astros former manager, suspended for the year, which ended up being like a third of a year. Just it was already a slap on the wrist as it was, but the way 2020 played out, it was even worse. Like a couple days after his suspension ends, the Tigers hire him. Tigers fans, anybody, it's very exciting time for them. They're very excited because Hinch turned around Houston after they were in really a bottoming out period. He was the manager when they turned things around. I think most of Detroit's fans are dreaming of that right now and envisioning that. But yeah, this guy's got that dirtiness of the Astros cheating scandal. So you go from a Twins fan perspective, they go from having Ron Gardenhire as their manager, and even if you're not a Twins fan, that's one of the most likable managers in baseball, just because he's so comical and willing to be a personality, and just a good guy, a good human being. Hopefully he's doing well. He retired due to health issues, but it sounds like that was a very wise and responsible decision on his part. So not a sad story, a happy story that he was able to make that decision on his own, and hopefully his health is going the way he'd like it to. But to replace him with AJ Hinch, which I don't know anything about AJ Hinch personally, but you're the dude who was the manager of the Astros during all that cheating stuff. Yes, I understand there's probably more teams in baseball that were into sign stealing and doing all this stuff, but it is what it is. He's got the dirt on him. So the Tigers became infinitely more easy to root against now with AJ Hinch as their manager than they were with Ron Gardenhire. I'm almost relieved, to be honest with you, that that's the case. Because it's I never like feeling like, I kind of like these other teams in the division. It's a lot easier to be like, I don't like them. I don't like them at all. So that feeling is back with Detroit for me, at least. So thanks for checking this out. Again, I just wanted to check in, give some info on all this stuff that's been going on. If you've been a little bit out of the loop today and in previous days this week, it was busy, but a ton more information here on these new hires. We also have a bunch of stuff on the new additions on the 40-man roster, guys they picked up at Twins Daily, and everything else. We're going to have a lot of offseason blueprints and discussions. And I was recently on a live stream with Nate Palmer and Seth Stowe at the site where we talked about starting pitching. So definitely check that out. That was a live stream here on YouTube. I will put a link to that down in the description. But again, that's been it for me. Thanks for checking this out. We're going to talk again soon.